Hello, my name is Ann Williams, and I am the Director of Health Services here at the Masters Academy. The purpose of this presentation is to review prevention of sexual harassment and the employee policy on this matter at the Masters Academy. The objectives of this presentation include to define sexual harassment and review reporting and investigation policies. Sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination that violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act was amended in 1980 and again in 1991. In 1980, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, issued regulations defining sexual harassment and stating it is a form of sex discrimination prohibited by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Supreme Court defined sexual harassment as a violation of Title VII. It established the standards for analyzing whether the conduct is welcome, levels of employer liability, and that speech or conduct in itself can create a hostile work environment. Sexual harassment is bullying or coercion of a sexual nature and the unwelcome or inappropriate promise of rewards in exchange for sexual favors. Sexual harassment includes a range of actions from mild transgressions to sexual abuse or assault. The harasser can be the victim's supervisor, a supervisor in another area, a coworker, or, in this school setting, even a student or parent. Harassers or victims can be of any gender. In the workplace, harassment is considered illegal when it is frequent or so severe that it creates a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision, such as the victim's demotion, firing, or quitting. The results of workplace harassment are many. It destroys employee morale, it negatively affects the work environment, can lead to litigation, and negatively affects the Christian testimony of individuals or the school as a whole. The Masters Academy has a policy regarding this matter. The Masters Academy forbids discrimination against any employee, applicant for employment, or student on the basis of sex. The Masters Academy will not tolerate sexual harassment by any of its employees. Such behavior will be cause for immediate corrective action or dismissal. This policy similarly applies to non-employee volunteers or any other persons who work subject to the control of the school's authorities. Types of sexual harassment include conduct of a sexual nature, which may include but are not limited to verbal or physical sexual advances, subtle pressure for sexual activity, touching, pinching, patting, brushing against another employee or another individual, comments related to the person's characteristics which are sexual in nature, sexually oriented teasing or jokes, or any harassing conduct to which an employee would not be subjected but for such employee's gender. Unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature includes verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature that may constitute sexual harassment when the allegedly harassed employee has indicated by his or her conduct that it is unwelcomed. So no means no and stop means stop. The Masters Academy prohibits any conduct of a sexual nature directed towards students by teachers or others to whom this policy applies and shall presume that any such conduct is unwelcomed. When is it harassment? Sexual harassment may occur in a variety of circumstances. Often the perpetrator is in a position of power or authority over the victim. Forms of harassment relationships include the victim and perpetrator being of the same gender or of the opposite sex. There may or may not be other witnesses of the offense. The perpetrator may be unaware that his or her behavior is offensive or constitutes sexual harassment, such as teasing, jokes, and comments about a person's appearance. The incident may be a one-time occurrence, but more often the incident is repeated. The adverse effects on the victim or the target are common and present in the forms of stress, social withdrawal, sleep and eating difficulties, and overall health impairment. So here are some good questions to ask yourself. When is it crossing the line? Are you making your coworkers uncomfortable by something you are saying or by your behavior? Would you do it or say it in front of your spouse or significant other? What do you need to know more about harassment? It can cost you your job. It can cost you your freedom. It can get you sued, and it is bad for the school and for our school's Christian testimony. Administrators and supervisors have specific role with regard to this matter. The employer is obligated to keep the workplace free from sexual harassment. The administrator will be liable if he or she knew or should have known of conduct and failed to take remedial action. We do have reporting, investigation, and sanction procedures. The Masters Academy encourages employees who feel they have been subjected to conduct in violation of this policy to report such claims to their supervisor, or if their supervisor is the perpetrator, to go up the chain of command. This may be done through the employee grievance procedure or by reporting such matters to the head of school, who is Mr. Darrell DeRuyter. Moving on, let's talk about employee-student harassment or abuse. Students have a constitutional right to be free from sexual harassment and/or sexual abuse while attending school. Some signs of student harassment are the following examples. If a teacher or school employee offers a better grade or shows students preferential treatment in exchange for sexual favors, that is a type of sexual harassment often called quid pro quo harassment. In Latin, that means this for that. Unwanted touching, comments, or gestures because of a student's gender that can often interfere with schoolwork, make the student feel uncomfortable or unsafe at school, or prevents the student from participating in or benefiting from a school program or activity. In addition, there are many forms of bullying or cyberbullying, which are actually sex-based harassment that is prohibited under the law. For example, prohibited harassment may include behaviors such as using cell phones or the internet to target students by calling them sexually explicit names. Finally, we are in the midst of a rumor mill, and so be very mindful of your behavior and how it can be misperceived by your students. The law requires schools to provide an effective means for promptly and appropriately responding to sexual harassment complaints. This means that once a school has notice of possible sexual harassment of any of its students, the school must promptly investigate to determine what occurred and then take immediate and appropriate steps to stop the harassment and prevent it from happening again. Here are some things you may want to consider to protect yourself against false claims of harassment. Limit one-on-one student contact in a private setting. Keep your classroom door open and try to have a third party present. Maintain a professional student-teacher relationship at all times. Remember, you are not your student's friend. Limit non-school activities with students and do not let students in your car alone with you. Avoid texting and having social media contact with your students. Your responsibility as an employee of the Masters Academy is to become fully aware of sexual harassment policies. You need to treat your coworkers and students professionally and with respect and dignity. Change your behavior when given indications that the behavior is offensive or harassing, and report any misconduct. The responsibilities of your supervisors include training of the employees, maintaining a high standard of personal conduct when dealing with all students, employees, and others, ensure that all students and employees are advised of their rights and responsibilities under harassment policies, and immediately deal with any allegations of harassment. In closing, because we are Christians and lights in the world here on campus and around, I would just like to encourage you to remember that we are called by God to walk in a manner that is above reproach. Philippians 2:15 says, "Prove yourselves to be blameless and innocent, children of God above reproach in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you appear as lights in the world." Thank you for your time and for your attention.